Bhumika Trust is delighted to welcome you all. Good morning, everyone. As we all are aware of the fact that the disability is a subject which more than often is looked down upon or precluded from the main topic of the conversation. We as an organization took it upon ourselves to address the elephant in the room and talk about the disability like any other normal social issue and not a plague. Today's conference topic is Emerging Discourse on Disability in the Contemporary World. Before beginning the conference, I would like to read out few rules. Attendees need to rename their original names as registered. No attendee is allowed to unmute. Attendees can turn on their videos if they want. Attendees can type in the chat box if they have any queries or confusion. Now I would like Dr. A. Marisport to please come over and speak a few words. Introducing Dr. Marisport, Dr. Marisport has teaching experience of 9 years at Gujarat National Law University. He has authored research papers titled Legal Aid and Women with Disabilities in the first CUSB National Online Conference on Women Empowerment and the Role of Legal Services Authority, and has also presented a paper titled Inclusive Work Environment Policy for Disabled Employees in the Government Institutions, Ensuring Fair and Just, in 6th International Conference on Law and Economics. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Amalya, and thank you, Arun sir. I hope I'm audible and visible properly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So here today's theme is contemporary issues and challenges in disability area. Right. So I would like to touch upon certain contemporary issues and how we should go about it. So this is my focal point. And especially this particular area, I would like to highlight some of the key challenges which we faces and how to overcome that, which I would like to highlight here. Right. Now, before I get into that, certain aspects I would like to highlight. Being coming from a law background, now let us look at the movement perspective, especially in the last session of yesterday, that disability politics has been highlighted. All right, especially a faculty from political science, and then it is carried forward by Shambhavana, a person from Shambhavana, right? That head. So if you look at it, how the discourse actually developed with regard to disabilities. First of all, Blind People Association, which actually paved the path, and then they started agitating, and then slowly it get the momentum. Then if you look at that slowly, then we have other disability coming, okay, asking their demand, and then this is a slow process, each disability. Then if you see that lot of institutions, they started with one kind of disability, then even I'm talking about NGOs, then they included other institutions, right? So this is one angle. And second angle, if you look at it, the perception of the people, how it actually evolved. I'm talking about so-called able, right? Even if you look at Indian perspective, many scholars have considered, okay, it is because of curse, you have been born like this, it is because of you can say that you curse of your parents, you have been like this. So that's it. Or then if you look at medical, then you have to get certificate, or you have to do certain things, then only you can able to work, otherwise you should not. Okay, that only till you can say that 1970s it was there. In fact, there was a debate. Even Rahul Bajaj has highlighted that why we should not supposed to have a special mention on disability in the article 15 and 16. What was the barrier? Okay, now whether constitutional experts have thought of this one, disability as one of the ground, the answer is no. if you get into the constitutional debate, they had that diversity aspects vertical diversity aspects while framing the constitution. They had the vertical diversity aspect. They hadn't thought of disability as a concern. So we have to look at that background, then we have to look at that current situation, right? So until that UN comment, right, which yesterday that SR has highlighted very clearly, so until that UN comment, then countries started incorporating some kind of momentum again supported that. Now in this background, let us look at the current scenario. As a disability, depending upon the nature of rather type of disability, he has some challenges or she has the challenges uh, from childhood to education to higher education, especially primary to higher education to employment, and then employment to, you can say that, matrimonial life. So each aspects there are some challenges. Again, if you look at that perspective of each types of disability, right? If you look at that matrimonial level, marriage level, so visually impaired and you can say that orthopedic, you have some differences. Similarly, you can have deaf and others, and especially there is a kind of charity model applied here. Some governments, they have the marriage schemes. So what they used to do, so if anybody come forward to marry, then you can say that 50,000, or you can say that 25,000, some kind of amount will be given. Is it a kind of encouragement, or is it a kind of you can say that indirect induction to indulge in some kind of deceit? In fact, what happened, there are some studies which shows that after these kind of marriages, because of monetary gain, after that, some the matrimonial arrangements of these people, right, able and disabled, not proper. So that's where we have to think about it. Right now, what I will do, I will highlight some of the contemporary issues with regard to education and other things, right? And a little bit, then I leave it to other speakers to carry forward. If you take it education, now if you ask myself, because being a partial blind, in fact, many of the time, my school teachers used to tell my parents, better you send him to a blind school, let him learn braille, or let him be like that. But my parents had thought other way. Whether it's right or wrong, that's altogether different debate. But if you look at it, the awareness and the acceptance, yes, if he is unable to look at, he is blind, how many parents are able to accept that? If he is having deafness, how many parents are able to accept that? That's a big thing. So that's where that awareness and acceptance and so-called karma notion supposed to be eradicated. Okay, that's the first and foremost is which I'm telling. Even that contemporary level, I'm telling you, different forms of that notion actually plays, right? So this is one thing which I would like to. And second, that education. And and even if you look at the new education policy, which actually has a provision on inclusive education, right, and which has highlighted lot of school initiatives, like even that special educator, they have to visit. Even you can say that depending upon the nature of the disability, we have to provide the education XYZ. What actually happening now? In fact, there is a survey conducted one of the professor at Chennai about, with regard to total blind, how many people are able to understand braille. The responses are very quite stunning. many people were unaware. Then how they can able to navigate? Similarly, with regard to deaf students or deaf people, many of the deaf people may or may not aware of their sign languages. Again, like our we have bilingual trilingual culture, they have to learn bilingual or trilingual signs. But how many people are able to, and with regard to deaf people, many of the time they have to understand and accept, and they have to choose their career about, let us say, 10 years old. By the time many of the people cross fifth standard, sixth standard, see the level, right? So that's a big thing. This is a real aspect which we have to understand. Then if you look at that opportunities, what are the opportunities are available now? If you look at that, a higher education, right? So primary itself is a big thing, whereas then if you go to higher education, again, that's a biggest hurdle. Now we may not have special needs in the institution, be it visual impaired, or be it learning disability, or those who are having autism spectrum disorder, right? So how they are, that person supposed to cope up to 10th or up to 12th? You may have special schools arrangements, but what about the higher education, right? That's a big challenge. Again, if you look at it, the education ratio of different types of disability, you could understand that you can ortho and visually impaired, at least they could get, but compared to other disabilities like deafness, or you can say that mental retarder. So that's a thing which we have to look at it. Now, with regard to deaf education, in fact, one of the presenter actually highlighted, right? I would like to reiterate here. When I used to interact with some of the deaf people, even I used to conduct some surveys, right? So that time I realized one thing. Whenever we are going to school, or whenever we are going to especially primary to secondary level schools, that's a foundational stage for our understanding. But what happened to the deaf people? Their language is sign. If the sign is not proper, especially how they are going to say, how they are going to understand, they simply copy paste, or they simply mug up without knowing, and how long they can remember that mug upping things, right? So that's a thing. So because that, why I'm highlighting this is the sensitization about the special needs and special requirement of each type of disability in the educational setup. That's very much even from parents side, they should aware what can be done, and how we can pursue and proceed. And then even the education setup, okay, that we have to ensure these things supposed to be provided. So for that, we have to give very big effort, right? That's a big issue which I would like to highlight. And with regard to learning disability, even you can say that autism spectrum disorder, original RPWD Act, not RPWD, PWD Act, Persons with Disabilities Act 1995, didn't have that provision. Later we have included through some other acts. Now RPWD Act actually inbuilt included five broad categories. Within that five, you can have this particular disorder. But again, this learning disability, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and various types. How many people are aware? And I actually urge, we should demand even there should be special module, or at least there should be some separate chapter to even B.Ed teachers or others, at least how to deal with these kind of disabled students, at least in general, and they should be given some kind of awareness if at all they come across any such students in their school, and how to guide them. Even if they are not able to cope up, at least they have to tell where the students can be sent. That's one thing. Even that block level or some region level, if as far as possible we have a special educator, okay, uh, they have to be arranged for training these students. And there are some special issues with regard to multiple disabled persons, right? So that's very, very important. And now, after education, again, higher education, it's a big challenge, right? On the one hand, you have to compete with uh, others, so-called able people. On the other hand, you have to fight for your existence. That's a big challenge as a disability. Now, in this case, now if you look at that higher education, that's where I would like to highlight here. Lot of opportunities also there, at the same time lot of challenges also there. Now, being a law person, I would like to highlight getting accessible textbooks for a blind itself is a big challenge. Foreign books you can get it, but Indian books you won't. So you have to fight, or you have to make the publishers aware why we need that book. Of course, you can say that NAB Delhi Library or Dicey Forum of India, they are trying their job to provide the books, but that apart, you may not have some you can say that extremely technical oriented books or reading material. It is too tough to get it, right? So that's where the thing, you have to convince a publisher to give the soft copy or accessible format. And that's a thing which we have to focus on. This is a contemporary issue, because in future also we will have a lot of law books, but Indian books you may not get soft copy. Even there are some sites you can say that like LexisNexis, or even you can say that EBC Reader. But what happened? These EBC reader, they give some kind of navigation. Of course, even Amazon Kindle, if you take it, you can access through NVDA, but you can't. You can say that download it, or you can say that some kind of copy pasting. It's not that much easy. Now the question is, if the able body is able to do certain things, why can't the same thing supposed to be given to us? The concern is that similarly books, if the able body is allowed to take the photocopy, if the able body is allowed to take a bookmark in that, why can't disabled people supposed to give that? So we have to sensitize and focus, right? This is my perspective I would like to highlight. Then I would like to come to that vital aspect with regard to disability, that is employment. Here, after getting the job, it's some disabled used to tell that getting job is not a big issue, that you have the struggle, but after getting the job, it's a struggle, or you can say that it's a period wherein which you have to prove. And then, yes, anybody, is there anyone
No,
would like to
sir.
ask?
Please continue. Please
Okay.
continue.
So after getting job, or after you can say that obtaining that position, to prove and then sustain, that's a big challenge that disabled person supposed to do. That's a big thing. And on the one hand, some private institutions, they give job in the form of charity. On the other hand, some institution giving in the form of compliance. Again, it make the disabled people differ from other able workers. They consider it as a burden. So now what happened? Because of reservation, everything, we get the job. But what about the dignified job? That's a big concerns, right? So that's where we have to again focus on. This is a contemporary situation. Once we obtain the job through reservation, but every time we can't force the people through law. We have to make the people to understand ourselves, understand the disability, and then have the equal concerns from their mind. Right. So in this regard, in fact, GNLU Disability Center has done a study also with regard to how the employees actually treated, or how the employees actually behaving in the public sector. Right. When we done the survey, actually we come to know certain impactful analysis. First one, which says that even able people also feel that yes, disabled people also working really good, and there is no difference in the work level, right? However, with regard to some of the facilities which disability people where they are having, let us take accessible features like screen reading or ramp, lift, other things, infrastructure access, or if you take some other concerns, training to some of the uh, career advancements. There are some denial. Again, these responses, when we further do minute analysis, again there is a disparity between the disabilities. For example, orthopedic disability has given advantage over visually impaired. Sometimes again within the visually impaired, you can say that low vision and total blind. So it happens. So again, if you look at overall, there are some concerns. So that mindset record to be changed. There are some private entities like um, um, this Ahmedabad-based institution, which actually recognize that disability people also having that skills, and actually consider us par with able people and recruited them. But that's a kind of own sample. But we should have other sample. Even I'm giving one small incident. What happened? Some of the NGOs like BPA and some other institutions, they actually send the people after training to some of the private entities for working. But whenever some grievances these people raise, then immediately the employer asks that institution which has sent. Then they used to discuss with me, right? Even the some employees also discuss with me. If the able people also having some grievances, but they used to discuss themselves, then what about the disabilities? They, why they are approaching that organization? Even small issues, they could have done it on their own level. Even they could have heard what he's saying, but instead of that, they're pointing out, we have given some job, but still. So that kind of notion supposed to be avoided, or that kind of mindset supposed to be avoided, right? This is really important. Otherwise, what happened? Even after getting a job, also now what happened? Every time you have been deprived, or after you are seeing certain aspects, again you are going back, right? So where is the dignity? In fact, one of the key findings of our study, which revealed that that grievance redressal was not proper. In fact, whenever they have their disability oriented issues, some inaccessibility, or you can say that some kind of training or promotion, that grievances are not properly heard. In fact, recently that bank employees of blind, they actually had a meeting, and in fact they have raised a concern about there is a problem in the promotional arrangements in banking sector. So it shows still a long way we have to go for ensuring rights of persons with disabilities. So these are all the contemporary issues which I would like to highlight from my side. If anybody would like to ask any questions, comments, more welcome. I try to my level best to answer. Okay, thank you, and over to you, Amelia.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really kind of you to highlight us with the issues and situations people are going through in the field of if they're differently abled. Now, I request Shruti Madam to take over. Shruti Madam is Shruti Madam is a multimedia professional, and she has an experience of 11 years in the field of journalism. Shruti Madam completed her graduation and has a bachelor's degree from Lady Shri Ram College, Delhi University. She also has a post graduation in creation content and has specialized in new media. She also acts as a social worker and has been inspired by her grandparents who were also community service uh, people. I welcome you, Shruti Madam. Over to you.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you're clear.
Yeah, first of all, a very, very congratulations to everybody on this day, International Day of Persons with Disabilities. I mean, so many people have talked on this forum. I actually find myself very short on words. I don't have any different points to make, but actually the same points of hoping and wishing for an inclusive world for everyone. Now, my experience in journalism taught me very little about inclusion. It was only after I switched to the disability sector about 6 years ago, that's when I learned that, how even in my earlier profession, there was room for inclusion. And I, having good education, good exposure, did not understand it from that perspective. So I think a first-hand experience is necessary and a dialogue is necessary more than anything. As an able-bodied person, you have to interact with the persons with disabilities and understand the potential and the challenges. And it's no different from any other person. I face similar challenges. It's just the mindset that blocks us, that, that if we think of a problem and solution, that's the same philosophy that goes on to persons with disabilities also. There is a challenge and there is a solution to it. So all we have to do is work towards a solution and accommodate. And it's not, and retrofitting is not the answer. So we have to change our mindset from the word go. And for that, I about 2 years ago took up a platform, mainstream media platform, where a lot of media persons actually read the content to sensitize them, because I think that media is still a very powerful tool. There's a lot of debate in the mainstream about the media ownership and politicizing of the media, but I still think that given the size and the diversity of our country, there is so much that the media can do in terms of just putting the information out there. Because in my experience, I don't think it's apathy. It's a lack of awareness that actually gives rise to insensitivity. It's not like people are bad or they want to willfully ignore the challenges of persons with disabilities, but they just don't know. Half the times they don't know, and the other half the time they don't know what can be done. So I think we have a great responsibility in this sector on us, people who are obviously persons with disabilities and the people who have taken the vow to kind of, make inclusion a reality. We have a great responsibility to explain to the other side what is and what can be. And I think that way a dialogue can be opened and everything is possible. We're seeing so many change. In fact, COVID is a great example of resilience of people. And it's a great example of also opening up of avenues, whether it's education and whether it's employment. So today, I mean, I'm very critical in my writings, as some of you might have seen, but today is the day that I am really hoping on to that and hooking onto that positive note that I think change is possible and we have to be at it. If, I would request the organizers, that I would like to make this session more interactive. So if we can ask some specific questions to do with the media or with the people, my work is essentially focused on persons with vision impairment. So we can make it a dialogue, and instead of me giving a speech here.
Sure, ma'am. The stage is all yours. You can proceed.
Yeah. So if like I said, the speaker before me has said so many points about persons with vision impairment, and I resonate with all of the above. So if we can make it an interactive discussion, and people can, even the speakers can kind of make a point, and we can interact, it will be better.
So those who want to interact with ma'am,
if there are any questions, please go ahead.
Unmute yourself and go forward.
Ma'am, we may take the questions, ma'am, at the end of your presentation, ma'am. When some interaction is there, we can have it, ma'am.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I can hear you. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So in the last 6 years, I would just quickly like to add what I've learned. That acceptance is probably the first step to accepting when you accept the differences within people, and don't see it as don't. So we have a tendency, and I've seen that in all aspects, not just disability. It's true for gender. It's true for caste. It is true for any block of differences that we create, that we like to say, okay, this is us and this is them. So this us versus them mindset has to be changed. The minute we spot a difference in somebody who is not like us, we just quickly call them the other, right? And that's where the differences start to build up without understanding how differences can actually be bridged. So I think from an education point of view, and I did hear you talking about the national education policy. From an education point of view, it is very, 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 very important that there has to be a complete re-education of society, and we have to start with children, and obviously the people delivering that education will be the teachers, on lessons in inclusion. And the best way to have that is having children with disabilities in the same classroom, because children absorb like a sponge. The minute you start interacting with somebody, you will not feel that there's something alien about them. Suddenly, you grow up in an inclusive, you grow up in a school which is full of able-bodied person, and then you pass out of there, you go to college, and you've never had any chance to interact with a person with disability, and suddenly at work you are interacting with somebody and you don't know how to respond to them. You don't know how to offer your help to them. Earlier I used to be also very apprehensive about, should I be offering my elbow to the blind person? Should I be offering my hand? Should I be doing, what should I be doing that's appropriate, that's politically correct? So a lot of times that education is missing. That sensitivity might be there in human beings, but that education is missing. So I think we have to start right from the education in schools and create that sensitivity and build it up from there. Once the child goes to their home from school, the child will also have an impact on their parents. And that's how we will spread the word to the society. What happened, the classic example is Diwali crackers. We all love Diwali and we all love crackers. And we thought growing up that, Diwali was all about crackers. But because of the crackers campaign in schools, I hear so many children coming back to their parents saying, we don't want to burn crackers. It's bad for the climate. So why can we not use a similar inclusive campaign at schools and make the child our ambassador? And it spreads, the circle will spread. So I think, and education is very important from every angle. What you were saying about NEP, that will open the access to everybody. If you can give an equal opportunity to education, if the government can ensure that, if the private establishments can ensure that, then We will not be having the debate on reservations and quota and rejections and discriminations, because you have created a level playing field by giving that opening access to education. And mind here, it's the government always thinks that it's the policy of the entry is not the only barrier. It's actually also the quality of education. Like you were saying about the speaker before me was talking about, access to books, access to reading material. So quality of education that is given to persons with disabilities has also to be consistent across institutions, across states. Right now, there's a lot of discrepancy going from geography to geography. There are some states which are very well provided for, and then there are some states where these services are almost negligible. So that the change at that rate cannot be done by just NGOs or individuals. The change at that rate has to happen at a mass scale, which is only the reach that the kind of reach is there with the government. So I think we have to collectively advocate for that change to come about. Once everybody has the access to good quality education, has access to technology, and technology, I know in some places is expensive, it's not easy to acquire, there is not enough internet connectivity, but that will get better with time. And once the developer of that technology also realizes that there is a huge market for them to cater to, they will understand that they will price the product according to the volumes rather than making it high priced. So if the volume of the users go up, they can divide that cost, and it will the cost will finally come down. So everybody gets an equal access to good quality education, to technology. And then I think the challenge, and I have said that in the past about even the other backward classes or anything, that then the onus is on the person to take it forward, because support can only take you so far. And the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, I think this year we complete 5 years of it. So yes, congratulations to everyone for that too. It's a powerful policy. I mean, in the word itself, I know there are a lot of implementation challenges with it. That also kind of supports the idea of empowerment and takes away the idea of reservations and entitlements. I think we have to somewhere push this idea within the disabled community also. Yes, so our task is like twofold. We have to divide it between the able-bodied world and the disabled community. So towards the able-bodied, we've agreed we have to sensitize, we have to advocate, we have to educate. And towards the disabled, we have to we have to ask for equal opportunity. Once the equal opportunity is granted, we have to start building aspirations. Because in my experience working on the IWA helpline, it's often the biggest challenge that we faced with blind people who would call in from other different parts of the country were that there were no aspirations. I mean, you cannot stop at just getting a government job. That's not how we will compete with other 21st century or jobs, right? So we have to build that aspiration, and that only comes when you get access to good education, because we are all shaped by the exposure we get in our life. Institutions have a role to play, parents have a role to play, society, the surrounding community has a role to play. So if we get that access, the mind kind of gets exposure to a varied environment, we start building aspirations. When I was in school, I remember I had no idea what I wanted to become in life. I love literature. I loved reading. That's all I knew. And so, the logical step seemed that, okay, fine, I'll pass out of school and I will go to college and I'll take up English literature, which I did. But the environment in which I studied changed my perspective on things. It opened up and told me what that course can take me to, what my options can be. So that's why it's very important for every child with disability to get that environment, to get that kind of exposure. And I know there's a lot of challenge in the tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities and rural belts, but eventually we have to work towards this model, because the dependency on the state has to be reduced, and ownership has to be created within. And that will only happen when the state actually supports the initial years. The early intervention is very important, according to me. And as far as the media is concerned, I think we need to step away from creating these, success stories of sorts, or making these pitiful accounts of how this person plays uh, the piano with her feet or something. It's all very amazing, but it's this whole thing of sensationalism around disability needs to go. We need to normalize the idea of disability, that disability is just a condition which will come with some kind of limitations, but those limitations are not life changing. The life still goes on, and dignity and independence is still possible in today's day and age, especially the digital environment that we live in. So the focus has to be brought in the media stories, and the media coverage also has to be brought on the person and not their ability or not their disability. Yes, the abilities should be applauded. They should be celebrated and pushed on the mainstream agenda, but not in a way that you kind of tabloid, in a tabloid journalism, I call it, in a way that the focus is, oh my god, this person plays harmonium with her feet or whatever. I mean, that person might have a musical talent. Let's focus on that instead. So our approach has to change. We have to put the person first, and then we have to urge the media. We have to advocate collectively and tell the media that there are so many issues that go uncovered from the mainstream national coverage. Let's talk about vaccinations. How many people had so many problems, persons with disabilities, with vaccinations? Why were there not separate stories in the mainstream news channels or print media about that? What about COVID-19 itself? Yes, we did hear stories about caretakers getting a separate pass and government issuing some schemes, but that's not it. The on-ground reality is very different. There are implementation gaps, and the media is a powerful tool in our hands to actually put pressure on the government and the powers that be to let them hear what the difficulties are, and also educate the rest of the people around us. Like, if you all have a neighbor, if a person with disability has a neighbor and the neighbor does not know what the person is going through, it's how will the person be able to help? So that but if there is mainstream national coverage on it, then the neighbor will listen to it. They will have a dinner table conversation about it. They will tell 2 other people, 3 other people, and that's how the sensitivity will develop around us. We'll get to know. So media has to report these issues. There were, now with social distancing becoming the new norm of living, let's say persons with blindness, a trip to the hospital is a nightmare because you don't know what you're touching and there's nobody there who's going to help you. So do we have dedicated health officers there or assistants there who are going to guide a blind person in and out of the hospital seamlessly? If there's a deaf blind person who turns up at the hospital, will there be a doctor or a doctor's assistant to be able to help them communicate? So these are a lot of questions that come to my mind, and I keep raising them through my writings and I keep raising them on forums so that people start thinking about this. So for me, the first step is to actively voice these concerns and also not just point out the problems, but say, okay, this can be done. This is a solution to this problem also. And then keep pushing for that. I think once the sensitivity levels come in, then we can go to the next stage of, implementation of these ideas. But yeah, there's a lot of stakeholders involved in it. It's not just the government. Disabled person itself, herself or himself is a stakeholder. The academicians are a stakeholder. Policymakers are a stakeholder. So we have to work with all stakeholders groups, sometimes collectively, sometimes, individually with these groups, and bring them to the same idea of sensitizing, saying that there is potential and it is going untapped. I believe that, everybody can contribute to this economy. So why are we losing out? We are worried, that there's so much hue and cry about the economic fallout, under this government or whatever. So why are we not using the caliber that we have in India? And yes, the last point I'd like to make here is about the numbers. We have to actively push for the next census where every disabled person is counted, and not just those 21 types of disabilities. All types of disabilities have to be accounted for. I thought the point of having a UDID in the first place was the intention was to have a card which will kind of, update the data in the government system. But the way it's being implemented is, it's tragic. So why are we losing out on that opportunity? Because if we will not have the actual number in hand and we will not know what the needs of those people state-wise, age-wise, disability-specific wise are, how will we ensure that their needs are being catered to? So I would like to close there. If we have questions, I would quickly like to take it because I have to run into another meeting.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your speech on the basis of your experience and the people which you have interacted, ma'am. Thank you. I welcome any questions. And meanwhile, ma'am, I have some concerns, ma'am. Since you have asked about media, two things with regard to media, ma'am. How they are actually portraying disabilities. First sense. Second, how they are actually publicizing news relating to disabilities, be it sports achievement or be it other achievements, or even you can say that some kind of mishap, like some disabled woman has raped in Haryana, and even recently at UP. What actually happened, whether that kind of importance actually given to Nirbhaya, what actually thinking, ma'am, and how you are going to ensure, ma'am, and how you are interacting with the people, what they are saying, why they are not giving that kind of weightage as far with so-called abled perspective.
Yes. Yeah, so there should not be any difference, first of all. I completely agree with you. And, I had reported last year, I think it happened that 3 rapes went unreported, or they just appeared on closed WhatsApp groups or disability advocacy groups. That's how I found out about them. And there was no media coverage about it. That's the kind of thing we are against, and that's the kind of thing we have to advocate for. And even when you do get to cover them, it's not just a mishappening, but also, the CBSE topper, I think it was the 12th CBSE topper, was from Jalandhar, a guy with visual impairment, Dhruv, I think his name was. And there was hardly any coverage on that. So why are we not promoting that? This is a big problem. The point is that, having been on the other side of the media, unfortunately, I would like to share here, with this group, is that there are a lot of good-hearted, like-minded journalists out there who would like to cover those stories, who would like to investigate those stories. But unfortunately, how the media hierarchy is built, it's not any different from any other institution. The editor is governed by the ownership of. So if it's a corporate owner, they will finally, in the interest of advertisement or what sells, they usually don't go with those soft stories. So sensationalism sells. So that's why I'm saying we need a paradigm shift of that dialogue. We have to make sure that there is interest in the general society about it. So once the content demand is there, the content provider will be forced to sell that. So we have to work with different stakeholders group and let the curiosity be arisen that, we want to know more about it. Because right now we are living in a very interesting world where media is getting more and more subscription based. There is no free media anymore. So we can choose to see what we see. Now, if anybody watches Netflix here, there are a fair bit of series which involve persons with disabilities as central protagonists. And people are learning more about that. And I find it great when I see somebody, across the restaurant table discussing that show and discussing that the primary character is a person with autism, and they are discussing the nuances of that. So that's the change we have to bring in. And it is a very slow thing to come about, but I'm sure that we can do it collectively.
Okay. Ma'am, then what about that coverage, ma'am? Even if you look at that sports coverage, if you see, especially that blind cricket team, they are achieving very well, even scoring in very well. But what happened? BCCI is not coming in. But if you take it, only one NGO actually promoting even that news about that person. It's actually sad to look at. CNN, IBN actually ask that person, even that captain of the team saying that आप मुझे मदद कर रहे हैं सचिन को मिलने के लिए. But he is equally as far with Sachin. But he's equally right. He actually scored that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. The point is that we are so conditioned that we have made certain idols in our head. Okay. And we don't see that this is an equal sport. See, for the first time that I walked into a stadium where blind cricket was being played,
Yeah.
I did not see any difference in terms of energy. It was the same energy on any other cricket
Yes.
ground.
Yeah.
It's only the way it was being played was different. But how many media persons were there to cover it, to feel that? None, actually. That's the sad part. So I'm sure that if we collectively advocate for it and bring two mainstream media channels there, and and also get consistent in our communication. So there are, all of us in the disability sector have to be consistent in what we also communicate to the other stakeholder, that that we have to promote the sport.
Yes.
We have to promote the power of the sport to transform.
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah.
Sure, ma'am. Yeah. Yes, Amulya, is there any questions in the chat?
No, sir.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then,
this is the question from this side.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, this is Sharad Tripathi from Jaipur. मैं हिंदी में अपनी बात रखना चाहूंगा.
हाँ जी, बोलिए.
जी. आपने सारा अपनी बात रखी है मैम. बस इस बात को हमें थोड़ा सा एक कंट्राडिक्शन है हमारे थॉट में. वो कंट्राडिक्शन ये है कि जब हम एक तरफ तो हम ये कह रहे हैं कि स्टेट को पर अपना जो बर्डन है वो हमें रिड्यूस करना होगा, और वहीं पर हम ये कह रहे हैं कि एस्पिरेशंस हैं, 21st सेंचुरी की जॉब्स हैं. तो हमें ये समझना होगा कि 21st सेंचुरी की जो जॉब्स हैं वो प्रॉफिट बेस्ड है, जो कॉर्पोरेट है वो टोटली प्रॉफिट ड्रिवन है. तो आपने जो बात बोली कि वो कवरेज नहीं देता है, वो मीडिया, उसका कॉर्पोरेट मीडिया कवरेज नहीं देता है, या हमारी जो डिमांड्स हैं हॉस्पिटल में जो हम सीमलेस एक्सपीरियंस हम चाहते हैं, तो उसमें डेडिकेटेड वर्कफोर्स लगता है, उसमें कॉस्ट इनकर्ड होती है. वो कॉस्ट स्टेट के अलावा कोई दूसरा कॉर्पोरेट उठाने के लिए तैयार नहीं होगा. तो हमारी अगर एस्पिरेशन ये है कि हम हॉस्पिटल में, प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल में चाहते हैं कि अलग से हमारे को कुछ अलग से ट्रीटमेंट्स मिले, अलग से कुछ चीजें मिले, तो उसमें कॉस्ट इनकर्ड होगी, और वो कॉस्ट कभी भी कॉर्पोरेट बियर नहीं करना चाहेगा. जहां तक हम बात बोलते हैं कि एस्पिरेशंस नहीं है हमारे लोगों में, तो ऑब्वियसली बात है कि रूरल इंडिया में जो एजुकेशन दे रही है वो गवर्नमेंट दे रही है.
यही मैं बोल रही हूँ कि एजुकेशन की जब तक क्वालिटी अच्छी नहीं होगी, और वो गवर्नमेंट पे ओनस पूरा है.
हाँ, तो हमारा जो फोर्स ये है, हमारा फोर्स यहाँ पर ज्यादा बेहतर हो कि हम गवर्नमेंट को कैसे अकाउंटेबल बनाए, उस पर ज्यादा काम करने की
पहली स्टेज तो सबसे पहले स्टेज वही है. सबसे पहली स्टेज वही है. एंट्री लेवल सारे बैरियर्स हर जगह हटेंगे, चाहे वो हॉस्पिटल में है, चाहे वो स्कूल में है.
हाँ, तो प्राइवेट सेक्टर वो 21st सेंचुरी की जो जॉब्स क्रिएट कर रहे हैं, वो तो रूरल इंडिया में जाएंगे नहीं कि भाई वो वहां पर जाके कुछ काम करेंगे. तो और जहां तक बात है कि भाई हमारा जो सीबीएसई बोर्ड का टॉपर है उसको हमने प्रोजेक्ट नहीं किया, या हारमोनियम वाले को प्रोजेक्ट किया है, तो इसमें अब बात यह है कि ऐसे जैसे अब कुछ पॉलिटिक्स है कि स्पोर्ट्समैन है, तो अब स्पोर्ट्समैन को स्टेट जो है वो कंजर्वेट कर रहा है, उनको सपोर्ट कर रहा है कि आफ्टर 40 उनको एक गवर्नमेंट कोटा में, उनको एक सेफ साइड में उनके कैरियर को सपोर्ट कर रहा है. लेकिन क्या हमारे डिसेबल्ड आर्टिस्ट के लिए कुछ हो सकता है? फॉर एग्जाम्पल जैसे प्रसार भारती है, वो गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर में है, अब वो हर साल ऑडिशन करता है आर्टिस्ट का. अभी उन्होंने पिछले 2 साल से उन्होंने ऑडिशंस नहीं किए, आर्टिस्ट को ग्रेडिंग नहीं की उन्होंने आर्टिस्ट की. क्या वो लोग पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटीज का एक स्पेशली ड्रिवन ऑडिशन नहीं कर सकते हैं? ओनली फॉर पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटी नेशन वाइड कर सकते हैं, बट प्रसार भारती से कौन एडवोकेसी करेगा? और जो एडवोकेसी करेगा उसको घर बिठा दिया जाएगा. तो ये सारी बात है.
शरद जी, 2 चीजें हैं यहाँ पे, 2 चीजें हैं, और वो दोनों साथ साथ चलेंगी, अलग अलग स्टेजेस पे चलती हैं, क्योंकि वो ना एक साथ नहीं हो सकती, और दोनों चीजें, दोनों लाइंस चाहे कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी हैं लेकिन चलनी पड़ेंगी. एक काम ये कि ओपन करें हम अपॉर्चुनिटीज को सारी, ताकि सबको उसका एक जैसा ही वो मिले. जैसे कि अगर मैं एक स्कूल में जा रही हूँ, तो अगर कोई रूरल इंडिया से भी स्कूल में आ रहा है, तो वहां पे भी एजुकेशन की क्वालिटी वैसी ही हो. ये आने में समय लगेगा, लेकिन वो ओनस पूरा का पूरा सरकार पे है, क्योंकि उस स्तर पे कोई प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशन काम नहीं कर सकता. उस स्तर पे एक सरकार ही काम कर सकती है. तो वो तो एडवोकेसी हमें चालू रखनी पड़ेगी उनके साथ. जहां तक 21st सेंचुरी जॉब्स तक की बात है, तो मैं ये बोल रही हूँ कि वो वहां से लेके जब आपकी क्वालिटी ऑफ एजुकेशन एंट्री पॉइंट से ठीक हो जाएगी, तो वहां तक आते आते आपके करियर प्रोग्रेशन में आपकी एस्पिरेशंस खुद बिल्ड हो चुकी होंगी, तब आपका धीरे धीरे डिपेंडेंसी ऑन द गवर्नमेंट विल रिड्यूस. हाँ, हेल्थ केयर जैसा सेक्टर है जहां पे आपको खाली डिसेबल्ड को नहीं, एबल बॉडीड को भी गवर्नमेंट पे डिपेंड करना है, क्योंकि हमारी कंट्री की जो डेमोग्राफिक है वो इतना डाइवर्स है कि हम जितना मर्जी पढ़ाई और ये सारी चीजें अवेलेबल करवा लें, बट देयर विल बी पीपल जो उसकी जिनको उनकी जरूरत रह जाएगी. इसीलिए हम सरकार को टैक्स देते हैं. ठीक है, बट वो मैं ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि हमें उस स्टैंड पॉइंट से कहीं ना कहीं जाके बातचीत खत्म करनी पड़ेगी कि ये स्पेशल सेल बना दीजिए एक डिसेबल्ड के लिए और ये एबल बॉडीड के लिए। वो जो अंतर है ना, उसका अंतर वो खत्म करना है। अल्टीमेटली उनको एक ही स्तर पे लाना है कि जैसे अगर मैं देखने के लिए चश्मा पहनती हूँ, मेरी आंखें बहुत कमजोर हैं, तीसरी कक्षा से मैं चश्मा पहनती हूँ, अगर आप वो चश्मा मेरे आगे से हटा देंगे तो मैं ब्लाइंड हूं। पर सोसाइटी ने मेरे को एक्सेप्ट कर रखा है क्योंकि उनके लिए चश्मा पहनने वाला व्यक्ति नॉर्मलाइज हो चुका है अब तक। ठीक है, उसी तरीके से हमको और डिसेबिलिटीज को नॉर्मलाइज करना है लोगों के दिमाग में, ताकि वो ये ना समझे कि हम इनके लिए कुछ अलग कर रहे हैं। अरे वी आर ऑल्सो इक्वल सिटीजन्स, हमें ये वाला बात को लेके चलना है। ओके, वेरी क्विकली वन लास्ट क्वेश्चन आई विल टेक, आई हैव टू रश देन।
Yes, any questions in the chat box?
Yes, there's a question in the chat box
Yeah.
from Mahadev Sawant. He says that we are organizing so many programs to create awareness about visually impaired children's education, but we invite and also send press report to reporter, but no one covers it on the newspaper and media. How to deal with it, madam?
Yes, Mahadev ji, it's very sad, I know, and I'm aware of it. Like I said, I have been on the other side, and if I were a news reporter today, I would take the press invite and take it to my editor, and the editor will probably want to do it or not want to do it, but the story will get crushed in the interest of other sensational stories. Let's say a political scam comes up, they will divert all their sources to that. And so that's why I'm saying a media person is eventually a part of a society, right? I am a human being first and then a media person, right? So once we do a mass scale sensitization, so Shruti, let's say, is a journalist later, and Shruti is a person herself first. So if you sensitize Shruti on the needs of varied groups in the society, whether Shruti becomes a banker or whether she becomes a journalist, whether she becomes a technician or an engineer or whatever, she will take that sensitivity into all her jobs. That is how we will slowly build this sensitive society. That's what I'm trying to say here. It's a very, very uphill task. It's a difficult task, but I think there is no other way of doing it. Because at an institutional level, yes, we can advocate and get immediate change there, but at the large scale and in the background, we have to work with each citizen as a society in general, civil society in general, different groups we have to take and start sensitizing them. That's why I'm targeting towards the media right now, that because I have seen the other side of it, I write only saying, okay, what can the media do about this? Like the Paralympics tally was path breaking. It was better than the Olympics tally. But did the Paralympics tally get that kind of coverage that the Olympics did? It did not. So then we have to focus and we have to rally the media into doing that. So it will happen. This change is it's very essential, but it is slow to come by, unfortunately. Okay, I'm going to take leave of you guys, and I'm sorry I have to rush out. But if I loved interacting with people here, and if anybody needs to connect with me, I am going to drop my email in this chat box. So I request the organizers to please share my email, and we can take these conversations offline also after Disability Day. Okay.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for enlightening us with your words.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so moving ahead, coming up, our next speaker is Mr. Arun Kumar. Mr. Kumar has completed his MCom from Hansraj College and is pursuing his PhD in Management Studies from Delhi University. He has organized various seminars and welfare programs for women empowerment and on challenges faced by persons with disability during the COVID era. He has also participated in state-level sports para-athletic and has secured medals in javelin throw. Currently, he is working as an assistant professor at Hansraj College, University of Delhi, and is also the coordinator of enabling unit of the college. Welcome, sir.
Hello. Thank you so much, Amulya. Am I audible now?
Yes, very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Really, it is a great opportunity for me to speak on this platform. Okay. And first of all, I would like to wish you very happy International Disability Day to all of you. Okay. So In the continuation of Mary's Port speech and as well as Nasruddin ma'am's speech, okay, really very nice speech given by the both the speaker, okay, and discuss a lots of things, okay, maybe education, maybe awareness, maybe we can say the learning disability, maybe different types of the disability as well, okay, and accessibility and because that equality as well, okay, lots of things in our mind, okay, to discuss about the person with disability, okay, maybe a medical benefit, maybe a media coverage, maybe a lots of things, okay, but nobody think about the internal disability issue, maybe among the person with disability like deaf people and the visually impaired, maybe physically challenged and visually impaired and the physically challenged and deaf and the other multiple disability, okay, nobody think about it, okay, that why we are thinking like matlab, why we are thinking about the inclusiveness, okay, because if I'm talking about the what is inclusiveness, as per my knowledge, that you are putting a pwd, that's basically the person with disability you are putting in the normal category, okay, this is the kind of inclusiveness maybe, okay, but if you're putting like just suppose there is a basket of egg, okay, and all the egg is white and you're putting a three different color egg in the basket, so definitely the white egg definitely will going to highlight this people that this people is from person with disability, okay, but just suppose, okay, that one people from the deaf and one people from the person with this physically challenged, one people from visually impaired, okay, then how we are going to handle it, okay, like suppose if you're putting a three equal color, like maybe a red, maybe a blue, three equal color in the basket, so nobody will going to highlight that he is a deaf one, he is a physically challenged, he is a we can the visually impaired. So this kind of the inclusiveness maybe we can try to achieve, okay, but generally nowadays people thinking that put all the person with disability in the normal scenario, okay, so this inclusive may be achieved in future, okay, and this will be happened as well in future, but nobody think about the internal disability among the person with disability, okay. uh, I would like means I would like to request all the participants be participate with me, okay, so I have one case, okay, a situation, okay, where there is a three people, one people from the deaf, okay, one people from visually impaired, basically the blind one, okay, and one people from physically challenged, okay, there is a print document, okay, there is a print document, print one where the everything is something written on the print document, okay, and the wheelchair people know the sign language, okay, there is only hint, the wheelchair people know the sign language, he don't know how to read the paper, okay, but the deaf people know how to read the paper, the blind people cannot read the paper because it's a print one. Then how we are going to handle, how we are going to make aware that wheelchair people, we can say that physically challenged people, okay, understand the paper, the deaf people understand whole things, okay, because deaf people know the how to read it, okay, but the wheelchair people and the visually impaired people, how we are going to handle? Anyone wants to answer this question? Maybe a participant please, because it's really required, okay, means I would like to speak in Hindi, okay.
I
Yeah,
know, sir. Good
yeah,
morning, sir.
good morning. Yeah, Gunjan please, sorry,
Sir,
bulbul, bulbul,
Bulbul,
yeah, bulbul please.
sir. Firstly, the wheelchair person use sign language to illustrate the deaf one to
Mm-hmm.
read the paper, and then he read aloud for uh, that person and for visually challenged one. Now the problem is solved.
Maybe wheelchair people don't know how to read the paper, he just know the sign language.
Yes, sir.
Then how
But
wheelchair people will going to express all these things because he not able to read the paper?
he used sign language.
But he not able to understand the paper, no? This is my question. He not able to understand the paper, what is written
Yeah,
on the paper.
yeah. So by sign language, he can try कि
Yes.
उसे कह सकें कि please translate it into this language or this language.
Any other people and the participant? Very nice attempt by the Bulbul. Okay. Anyone?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Arun,
Yeah, yeah,
Arun, could
please.
you ask the question in a slow manner?
Okay, just I'm going to explain once. Okay, there is a three people. Okay, one people from the deaf, one people from the physically challenged, or maybe wheelchair user, one people is blind. Okay, there is a one print document. Okay, we need to read. Okay, we need to specify that what is written on the paper. Okay, wheelchair user know the sign language. Blind people not able to because they read because it's not visualized. Okay, there people know how to read the paper, okay, but he don't know how to express only in the sign language. Okay, then how we are going to make understand the blind people or visually a wheelchair user and maybe a deaf one?
I hope there are two participants now. Raise their hands.
Yeah,
Just navigate.
please come forward, please. Amulya, ask the name once.
Two people raise. Yes.
आपने पहले बताया नहीं था सर कि
Okay,
डेफ पर्सन है उसे सब साइन लैंग्वेज आती है
deaf people always know the sign language will work.
सो सर ऐसा हो सकता है कि जो डेफ पर्सन है वो अपनी साइन लैंग्वेज में जो व्हील चेयर यूजर है उसे एक्सप्रेस कर दे एंड देन जो व्हील चेयर यूजर है वो जो VI पर्सन है उसे बता दे प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व
Yeah, that's problem solved. Okay, so this is what means we as a person with disability, a man with disability, we can help to each other. Okay, if I'm talking about the deaf people, okay, if deaf people wants to because that communicate with the other, okay, so he can teach the sign language to other people. Okay, as generally we are talking about the educational because the educational institution, okay, the deaf people not able to come in the normal scenario of the education institution. It's true one. I'm not denying that it's not a true, but it's true one. But how we are going to handle this problem? Okay, getting my point. If the deaf people come forward, a deaf NGO, the deaf community, okay, they come forward to teach all the peoples in the education institution, maybe are the concerned one, maybe a faculty not able to understand the sign language. But if you're teaching the faculty, then definitely he and she will able to understand the sign language. Okay, and after that in future whenever the new deaf people coming in the educational institution, definitely the faculty will going to teach, not need to go for the special education and the other things. The one time effort taken by the because that deaf people, so easily the education institution accessible for all the deaf community. Okay, so this thing I wants to express, okay, that there is differentiation because there is a diversity among the person with disability. One people belong from the deaf, one people belong from the blindness, one people belong from the physically challenged. Then how we think yeah,
sir,
Bulbul. Yeah, Bulbul.
I'd like to add here
Yeah,
that so-called special teachers not knows how to deal with person with disability or CW as in children with special need.
right. I
It's my
totally.
own experience.
Yeah, please. Sorry. Can you pardon your question once?
No, sir, I'm just telling you that that so-called special teachers not knows anything about how to deal with the CWS and students. They only what they do. They only gather all the CWS and students at a place and started teaching like a normal teacher.
I totally agree, Bulbul. I totally agree with your words. Okay. It's true one because if I'm talking about the when you are in flow, so definitely you are going to speak like a normal people. Okay. And you just because the everyone wants to take care of the majority, but nobody wants to take care of the minority on the basically the other minorities people, okay, in the class. Like suppose one people in a class, okay, who is visually challenged or maybe a physically challenged, he needs some kind of access, okay, or kind of little bit extra explanation, okay, but in the flow of the communication, the flow of teaching, we just forget for the while that we are one people having we can that one people in our class that having a person with disability, okay, other categories, okay, other different categories, okay, it's true one, but after that class we can help that guy, okay, that we can help that people, okay, to explain a little bit extra about the content which we already taught, okay. So this thing maybe happened, okay, because we need to take care of all the peoples in the class, okay, or maybe in education institution. We can't we can say that especially focus on the person with disability and we ignore the normal one, okay. It's not possible, okay. And we not think that if you're ignoring someone and focus on someone, it's the inclusiveness, okay. It's not. We have to focus on the both the people, okay, but little extra care of the person with disability, okay, little extra care. Then we can think about the inclusiveness. Then we think about the better development of the person with disability in the world, okay, right. So I'm talking about the diversity among the person with disability. If it's reduced, okay, if it's because that it's reduced, then definitely we can achieve the inclusiveness in the society, okay. Next thing, if I'm talking about the I want to cover in my speech is employment, okay. It's a big term, okay, right, for the normal people as well as for the person with disability, okay. The ultimate goal of a normal people, or we can say that a person with disability, to get a kind of employment in the life, okay, because that in our throughout the life, okay, people learning for the getting a good job in the life. And the job is what? To make you financial freedom, economical because that economical freedom, okay. After getting the financial freedom, all the financial resources you have, so you can hire, right. Like suppose if one deaf people recruit in the organization, okay, and getting a salary of 2 lakh 1 lakh, okay, then he can hire one assistant who can express all the sign language to other people. So by this way the deaf people can, because they perform well, or we can perform efficient in the organization, right. So by this way problem is solved. But employment is a big issue for the person with disability, okay. I'm not talking about the unemployment ratio and the other things. I'm talking about the employment one, okay. That employment is a big issue for the person with disability, because they are not recruited, because they're not recruited by the peoples, okay, in the organization. I'm not talking about the public sector, because there is a already the reservation applied, okay, or the marriage sport is already talk about the public sector. I'm talking about the private sector. I'm talking about the corporate one. Okay. Then why the corporate not going to recruit the people? Is there any problem? Anyone of you want to say? Is there any problem that why corporate people not wants to recruit the people? Anyone? Any point we want to say? So corporate person with disability को hire क्यों नहीं करता है? Is it the question which we need to solve? कोई कुछ कहना चाहेगा? Participant, please.
Sir, may
Yeah.
I?
Yeah, please, Bulbul. Go ahead.
Sir, actually, the problem is that they do not want to spend their resources on us. I can say they
Yeah.
don't want to spend their money on us. It's a loss for them.
Yeah, it may be. It may be. Yeah. But listen, one more thing I would like to say. Okay. If one people belonging from the deaf category, okay, not able to express with the word, okay, going for the interview, the HR manager wants to recruit because he is a highly qualified, he's completed his master and the PhD in the required because the field. The eligibility for the job is totally fulfilled by the people, but he not able to because that he not able to understand the deaf candidate communication style, maybe a sign language, he not able to understand, okay. Then how the interview process is completed? Nobody think about it, okay. Nobody think about the sign language interpreter, because nobody think about the, always think about the sign language interpreter is not good, okay. We can train all HR in the sign language as well, okay. So while taking the interview, because that while taking the interview, he can or she can understand the sign language of deaf candidate as well, okay. Then easily he and she will able to recruit the people, because he know what he want to say and what he want to say. So this is the big problem, that HR manager is not able to understand the person with disability in a same manner the other people, because that other categories of the person with disability able to understand, okay. Means the HR manager need to be trained in a manner, okay, that he and she will, because that able to understand the sign language, or maybe the able to understand the different situation of the person with disability. Like just suppose one physically challenged wants to give the interview, he's another, he's highly qualified people, okay, but there is a no because the RAM and the other accessible for the wheelchair, okay, then how the physically challenged going for the interview, okay, the thing is big, okay, right? If I'm talking about the because in the corporate we are talking about the independence, okay, we are talking about the financial independence and the others, nobody will going to help you because there is a huge competition, okay, maybe among the colleagues, maybe among the other organization, okay, but nobody will going to help you. But how a person with disability can help themselves? I'm talking about if one deaf people working in the organization and one visually people join today, then how deaf people going to help the visually impaired? Okay, there is a software. Okay, maybe the visually impaired people not able to understand the sign language, but deaf people know how to type in the chat. Okay, maybe he can type in the chat and we can that go on the voice translator. Okay, and the type chat because the text can be converted into voice chat, okay, and now visually impaired people will able to understand the whole deaf and visually impaired communication is totally solved and the barrier is totally removed, okay. So nobody think like that, okay, just we are claiming that we need a right, we need things, okay, which is really important. I'm totally agree with this, okay, that right is really important for us, okay, because without right we can't uh, say anything to other people, okay. But what about the among the person with disability? Can you you guys ready to help the other person with disability? As a person with disability, I'm ready to help the other people, okay. If I'm talking to myself, okay, I'm talking to myself, so I don't know sign language, okay, then how I'm going to help? But some people teach me, or some deaf people teach me this is the sign language, then definitely I'm going to help the deaf people as well, okay,
Uh,
right? Yeah, somebody wants to say
yes,
something.
I can also help. I'm also a person with visual impairment, and
Hmm.
I'm this partially sighted. So
Hmm.
whenever I meet any deaf or hearing impaired, I don't know sign language, but whatever they're trying to say, I just type on the this. If I want to ask his name, so I type on my mobile and show it to him. So he
Hmm.
replied with the his mobile only. So that way
Right.
I interact with them.
Yeah, so means this kind of the accessibility is present in the world, okay, and we can solve the problem of the corporate world, okay. Means the HR can hire the visually impaired as well, or because deaf people as well, if you're making the HR as an accessible person, okay, because that inclusive person in the for the understanding the person with disability, okay. So this kind of the mentality, because this kind of the understanding we can develop among the corporate as well, okay. The other part, if I'm talking about the infrastructure one, okay, is true one. I'm not saying that the corporate infrastructure is totally poor for the person with disability. It's true, there is a kind of we can that a field where we can improve, okay. Nobody fight with the government for the improving the corporate infrastructure, because why corporate will going to invest a lots of money, okay, to making the institution accessible for the person with disability, because the normal people is already
Sir,
available to yeah, exceeding time.
sir,
Yeah, bol please.
according to me, the corporate world is more better than this government institutions.
Yes,
It's
Bulbul,
more
it's true. It's true because in the corporate, you can express your higher capacity, you can express your uniqueness, you can express, you can develop yourself. Okay, it's true one. But if the institution accessible for you, then it will happen. Okay. And nobody think that how we can make this institution accessible for the person with disability, whether belong from the visually impaired, whether belong from the category of person, we can that physically challenged or deaf. Okay, we can't think, okay, we not think about this kind of solution, okay, and nobody fight with the government regarding this, okay, to improve the corporate infrastructure, to invest the money. Nobody fight with the NGO to improve and donate some money to this corporate and develop a kind of infrastructure, okay, so this organization can hire the person with disability, okay, right? So maybe it is the solution, okay, and this is the things I want to express, okay. Anybody have any questions? So definitely I would like to address your question, it's my great pleasure to hand to you, okay. So thank you so much.
Arun,
Yeah,
Arun,
please.
Arun.
Yeah.
Actually, I would like to know from the employer's perspective. Employer's perspective. Now you have discussed about its cost only, right? But now look at it. How many accessible things they can do, and how many things, and especially there are two set of challenges we have to do. One, if you're building an environment future that is possible, including. But what about the altering the existing environment? How it can be made?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's the one thing. Second thing, if you look at it, especially if you look at employer side, now they have that ableism mindset. Right now, how to do that, especially private players, right? How we can do that, because how we can convince.
Exactly, you are very much right, Mary Sports, sir. Okay, the other part, if I'm talking about the existing infrastructure, okay,
yeah.
So if I'm talking about the existing infrastructure, the deaf people, if I'm talking about the deaf people, he is totally accessible. There is no barrier of infrastructure, okay.
Yes.
But there is a barrier of communication, okay. Getting my point? So there is a barrier of communication, okay. If there is a one organization hiring a 10 deaf people, okay, including one sign language interpreter, so all the deaf people can work efficiently in the existing infrastructure as well, just for the hiring a one sign language interpreter, right? So no means there is a no communication barrier, okay. Take example of a visually impaired or wheelchair user, okay. Generally, if I'm talking about the big organization having the lift facility and the other accessible facility, okay, just we need to little bit change, okay. Lift is reserved for because the person with disability, they can easily access, okay. You can put some mechanical tools in the gate, so physically challenged people can easily open the door, okay, and easily because that make the infrastructure, because a seating space on the existing infrastructure little bit higher, than easily because the physically challenged people can work, okay. But there is a problem that why corporate means we need to change the attitude of the corporate, okay. We need to change, okay. One more thing I'm missing, okay. I just would like to say, okay, generally if I'm talking about the employment, so what kinds of the things we need, okay, as a person with disability, okay, or for getting any job, the first thing, the educational qualification. But now the modern era is talking about the inclusive education and the other people's the now the person with disability are little bit, because that highly qualified, okay. I'm not talking the wholly person with disability is qualified, but almost now the from the person with disability category, people is really highly qualified, okay. And the physical and the other, so if you are going to solve the physical problem, the accessible problem, so easily we can hire the person with disability, okay. So the attitudinal problem is a kind of thing which we can resolve, okay, which we can address to the government, say there is a problem, please help the corporate, okay. And the corporate definitely like to solve, okay. If I'm talking about the corporate always involved in the CSR, okay. CSR is a corporate social responsibility, where the corporate because that give some money to the other organization. Why the CSR not invest in the their own organization to make this organization accessible for all the person with disability, okay. The CSR is a big one, okay. The different NGOs getting the fund from the different donation or donator, okay, or the different institution. Why NGO not giving this fund to the corporate for the making the infrastructure accessible for the we can say that a person with disability. So by this way we can, because if the infrastructure accessible, no, then definitely a person with disability getting the job. Because there is a problem, because if I'm talking about the as a HR mindset, okay, he wants to hire, but he not hire because the institution is not accessible, and not because that HR manager not have a power to develop the institutional infrastructure. Okay, so if institutional infrastructure is developed, so definitely the HR manager wants to hire the person with disability, because ultimately the hiring process in the hand of the HR manager, right? So hope I answered your question.
Arun sir, I just wanted to say one thing. Means
Yes.
if means for the deaf people, it can be like that. It should be part of our education. Everybody should learn sign language in
Am I
the.
audible, Arun sir?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
आवाज आ
yeah,
रही है sir? Yeah,
yes,
please.
yes, yeah. Actually, I'm asking that other side, one more side, because if you're spending CSR, it's a kind of charity, right? But because charity, short run it may work, but long run it doesn't work.
I totally agree, sir. But if one time you're developing the infrastructure in your institution, then
Yeah.
infrastructure will work for the
Work,
longer
yeah,
time,
long.
as longer
Yes.
time. So one time investment, okay, one time the CSR invest in your own organization. In future, you can hire the person with disability easily. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
There is no question mark to that we need to provide the accessible environment. One
Yes,
time
yes.
investment. If I'm
Sure,
talking
sure.
about the
Sir,
corporate, yeah, Bulbul, please.
sir,
First,
that
Bulbul, please wait. Suez sir, answer. Yeah, Suez sir, can you pardon me your question, please, once again?
Sir, I was not questioning. Actually, I was telling means for the deaf people, a sign language must be our educational system part,
Yeah,
from the childhood education to your our graduation level.
yeah, it's
So
true. It's true,
that
sir.
should be, that will be normal thing. And for the disabled people, like means who needs wheelchair kind of thing. So for that, it should be a government policy. Means just like that, if you build a building, then there should be fire extinguisher. There should be other firefighting equipments also. So there should be your building should be accessible to disabled people.
Right. So this is
Means
the things. Yeah,
it
this
should
is.
be, it should be done by the government, not by the means one NGO will help you or other NGO will help you. Because it's the part of your business, means to its investment to run your business.
Yes.
So you, तो गवर्नमेंट इसको मेरे ख्याल से जब तक कंपल्शन की फॉर्म में नहीं करेगी तब तक नहीं हो सकता, because we know that की corporate is just here to making the money, and there are very less corporate people who think about charity. So because as we know that some cafe coffee day shops hire only the deaf people or disabled people, so they do, but it needs very high willpower,
right,
to do this kind of thing. And if government will make this policy, और मतलब फिर वहां पे फिर करप्शन नहीं हो कि भाई बिना उसके आप बिल्डिंग का जो हम कहते हैं कंप्लीशन सर्टिफिकेट ना दे कोई, तो फिर ये सब चलेगा।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सर, यू आर वेरी मच राइट। ओके,
और डेफ के लिए तो मैं अब यही कह सकते हैं कि भाई हम 1 मंथ की वर्कशॉप इस तरह से और एजुकेशन सिस्टम के पार्ट में आ जाए, तो उससे बेटर तो कुछ है नहीं।
Right, sir. You are totally agree and totally agree with your point. Okay. Now, Bulbul, please.
Sir, so yeah. I'm talking about that lift one. Why lift? Why not ramp? It's my question.
I totally agree. Okay. If I'm talking about the lift, so lift taking a little infrastructure, okay, and if I'm talking about the RAM, okay, so it's taking a little extra infrastructure, okay. So I'm not going on the big debate on this, okay. So it's all depends on the organizational requirement, okay, right. So I'm not going to say anything more on this, okay, right, Bulbul?
So why, if you are not saying anything,
listen, Bulbul, okay, this is the part of infrastructure. Like if one corporate wants to develop a RAM, so it's a part of organization decision, okay. He can, okay, if the lift is the alternate solution for the wheelchair people or for all the peoples, if I'm talking about the different categories of the people, they can easily use the lift. You can assign one people as a lift man, okay, and they can help all the person with disability. So lift have their own advantage and the wheelchair, we can that a ram have their own advantage, okay. So it's all depends on the requirement, right, Bulbul?
Okay, sir. And
Okay.
sir, my
Yeah.
next question is about education
Yeah,
system.
please.
About colleges. Just like on 27th, a
Mm-hmm.
meeting was held on the in the NPRD, and I was the part uh,
Okay.
there. Very, you know, बहुत अजीब सा एक एक्सपीरियंस शेयर किया था एक मैम सर ने किया था या इट्स मुरलीधरन सर ही सेड कि एक लड़की का एक कॉल आया था कि उसका एलएसआर में एडमिशन तब तक नहीं दिया गया जब तक उसका यूजीआईडी नहीं बना। जब यूजीआईडी बनाने के लिए हमें ना स्ट्रगल फेस करना पड़ता है और उसे अप्लाई करने में भी बहुत वो होता है बिकॉज मैंने भी ट्राई किया था तो मुझसे वो डिटेल्स नहीं भरी जा रही थी तो मेरा अभी तक यूजीआईडी नहीं बन पाया है
So definitely we can try to help, okay. On this part is not my area to speech, okay, so sorry for this, okay. uh, Anyone else, please? Hello, any other peoples? Mary Sports, sir, it's my over, okay. Amulya.
Thank you, sir. It was very nice to hear from you and the way you answered all the questions. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you so much. It's my great pleasure to speak on this platform, okay. Thank you so much to all of you, and thank you so much to all the audience, okay, for the participation.
Okay, thank
Now,
you so much, sir. So, moving ahead, we have Mrs. Mrs. Manjula Rath with us. Okay, so I would like to call Manjula ma'am. Introducing Manjula ma'am, until she was 7, she could read in the sunlight or in a well-lit room. But as the disease progressed, it became impossible for her to read or recognize faces, making her one of over 2.3 million visually impaired women in India. Manjula Rath was 8 years old, the eldest among her siblings when her father decided to leave. Looking at 4 blind children every day and knowing he couldn't do anything about it, he was sure we had no future. She says, matter of fact. Because Rath and her siblings could see a little in the beginning, there seemed a hope of recovery. But with their vision deteriorating over time, it was clear that they would never be able to see. All four, 3 girls and a boy, have retinitis pigmentosa, a rare genetic disorder that gradually breaks down cells in the light sensitive tissue lining the back of the eye, known as retina. Manjula Rath always dreamed of becoming a university professor. It was in 2008 that she applied and got a job in University of Delhi. Welcome, ma'am.
देखो जो हमारे शायद फर्स्ट स्पीकर जब बात कर रहे थे आज, तो मैं बहुत देर से ज्वाइन कर पाई क्योंकि ज्वाइन हो नहीं रहा था। सेकंड और थर्ड स्पीकर को मैंने बहुत अच्छे से सुना और सुन के बहुत अच्छा लगा। सबसे पहले मैं भूमिका ट्रस्ट और ऑर्गेनाइजिंग टीम को कांग्रेट्स कहूंगी। आवाज सुनने से ऐसा लग रहा है कि सारे यंगस्टर्स हैं, लेकिन ये लोग इतने अच्छे से प्रोग्राम को कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं, इतने अच्छे से प्रोग्राम को कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं कि सुनकर मजा आ गया। कल और परसों मैं 2 दिन ज्वाइन नहीं कर पाई किसी वजह से, तो मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि मैंने बहुत कुछ मिस किया कल और परसों के 2 दिन में। एनीवे जो गया वो तो हाथ में नहीं आएगा, लेकिन इसकी रिकॉर्डिंग है, तो मैं भूमिका ट्रस्ट और ऑर्गेनाइजर से ये रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी कि वो मुझे ये रिकॉर्डिंग प्रोवाइड करें। अब मैं अपनी बात शुरू करती हूँ। 21st सेंचुरी में हमारे सामने क्या चैलेंजेस हैं और उन चैलेंजेस को हम किस तरह से ओवरकम करें, मेनली मैं इस पर बात करने की कोशिश करूंगी। देखो, चैलेंज 21st सेंचुरी के हैं, वो बात ठीक है, लेकिन आज तक अगर मैं पिछले 2000 साल की बात करूं, आज तक हर सेंचुरी में पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटी के लिए चैलेंजेस आए और उन्होंने अपने जीने के रास्ते निकाले। उन्होंने अपने जीने के रास्ते निकालने के साथ साथ सोसाइटी को भी जो वो अपना कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते थे वो किया, बोथ नेगेटिव और पॉजिटिव सेंस में, क्योंकि ह्यूमन नेचर है हमारा, और ह्यूमन नेचर के चलते हम लोग जो कंट्रीब्यूट करते हैं उसके चलते हमारा स्वभाव ही ऐसा है कि हमारा स्वभाव अच्छाई और बुराई को मिलाकर बनता है। शकुनी ने अपने आप में एक रोल प्ले किया, सूरदास ने एक रोल प्ले किया, हेलन केलर ने एक रोल प्ले किया, लुई ब्रेल ने एक रोल प्ले किया। तो सिर्फ ये जो मैंने 4-5 नाम गिनाए, अलग अलग सेंचुरी में अलग अलग लोगों ने सोसाइटी को दिया, केवल सोसाइटी से लिया नहीं। दूसरी बात जो मुझे कहनी है वो ये कि जो सोसाइटी को जब हमारी चैरिटेबल अप्रोच थी, लंबे समय तक ये अप्रोच चली और ये अप्रोच आज भी है। हालांकि हमारे यंगस्टर्स में ये वाली अप्रोच कुछ कम हुई है, अदरवाइज ये अप्रोच आज भी है। तो लेकिन यहां पर भी जब हम मंदिर के बाहर बेगिंग किए अपनी जीविका के लिए, तो भी हमने सोसाइटी को दिया। हमने सिर्फ उनसे पैसा या सामान लिया नहीं, उनको भी दिया। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, हमने गीत गाकर, भजन गाकर, म्यूजिकल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स के थ्रू समाज को दिया। तो लेने के साथ साथ देने की अप्रोच भी रही, और जब हम समाज को देते हैं और समाज से लेते हैं तो उसी से समाज बनता है और वो समाज आगे चलता है। लेकिन जो हमारी सोच है, जब मैं चैरिटी की बात करती हूं तो उसमें हमारी सोच क्या आई कि मुझे अपने अगले जन्म को सुधारना है और मुझे सीधा स्वर्ग में जाना है। उसके चलते चैरिटी चली, लंबे समय तक चली, आज भी चल रही है। लेकिन उससे पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज का रिहेबिलिटेशन भी हुआ, और ये वाली जो चैरिटी अप्रोच है, आज जब हम राइट बेस्ड अप्रोच की बात कर रहे हैं उसके ऊपर मैं 1 मिनट के बाद आती हूँ। लेकिन आज जो हमारा यंगस्टर है वो क्या कहता है कि अगला जन्म किसी ने नहीं देखा, सब कुछ इसी दुनिया में है, इसी जन्म में है, अच्छा काम करो, अपनी पोटेंशियल पर विश्वास रखो। तो उसके चलते वो वाली जो अप्रोच थी सोसाइटी की, वो अप्रोच जो है अब थोड़ी सी कम हो रही है। अब मैं आती हूँ थोड़ा सा विमेन विद डिसेबिलिटी वाला पहलू भी मैं लेना चाहूंगी। आज हम लोग सोसाइटी को ब्लेम करते हैं कि समाज जो है हमें उपेक्षा की दृष्टि से देखता है, हीनता की दृष्टि से देखता है, और इसके लिए हमारी जिंदगी में हम सबके पास सैकड़ों हजारों एग्जाम्पल्स हैं जो देकर हम लोग ये जस्टिफाई कर सकते हैं कि एक रिक्शे वाला भी आपको हीनता की दृष्टि से देखता है, एक घर में काम करने वाली कामवाली भी आपको हीनता की दृष्टि से देखती है। उदाहरण के लिए उसने घर में काम किया, आपने बोला ये बर्तन साफ नहीं मंजा, आपने बोला यहाँ से सफाई नहीं हुई, उनका जवाब क्या होगा? आप किसी को भी दिखा लीजिए, एकदम ये बर्तन साफ है और यहाँ पर बिल्कुल रत्ती भर भी डस्ट नहीं है जहां से मैंने सफाई की है। किसी को भी दिखा लीजिए। माने मैं यदि अपने हाथों से टच करके देख रही हूं कि ये बर्तन साफ नहीं मंजा है, तो वो इस चीज को मानने को तैयार नहीं है कि बर्तन उनका सीधा है कि आप किसी को दिखा लीजिए, माने देखना। आप समाज हमारा क्या मान रहा है कि आप हर चीज को देख कर, जिसका जो लेवल है वो उस लेवल के हिसाब से चीजों को देख रहा है, हर चीज को देख कर जो है आप जज कर सकते हैं कि ये सही है या गलत है।
Started booster shot. So this is also another reminder that booster is not the solution. Sharing the vaccines with the country which need vaccine is a solution. As an example. But as is the case with most.
क्या मैं शुरू कंटिन्यू रखूं?
जी मैम, जी मैम।
ठीक है, तो मैं ये बोल रही थी कि जिसका जो लेवल है, परिवार में सब लोग पढ़े लिखे हैं, उस परिवार में डिसेबल्ड भी है, वो भी पढ़े लिखे हैं, वेल सेटल्ड हैं, लेकिन मेरे पास तमाम ऐसे उदाहरण हैं जो ये कहते हैं कि जो परिवार के अंदर देखने वाले लोग हैं वो आपको इक्वलिटी के दृष्टिकोण से नहीं देखते। उनके लिए आज भी वो जो हम लोग कहा करते थे, और ये सच भी है, मेरी बहुत सारी स्टूडेंट्स के साथ बात होती है और वो कहते भी है कि आज भी गांव में या छोटे शहरों में अगर परिवार में कोई डिसेबल्ड है तो उसको बंद करके रखा जाता है। जो आपके जनगणना के लोग आते हैं उनको बताया नहीं जाता है कि इस परिवार में कोई डिसेबल्ड है। लेकिन मैं उन शहरों की बात तो नहीं कर रही, मैं बात कर रही हूँ बड़े बड़े परिवारों में, पढ़े लिखे लोगों में आज भी डिसेबिलिटी की एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी नहीं है। आज भी डिसेबिलिटी को एक अभिशाप माना जाता है। शुभ और अशुभ काम में विमेन विद डिसेबिलिटीज को आगे नहीं आने दिया जाता। परिवार में दो भाई हैं, दोनों डिसेबल्ड हैं, दो में से एक बहू डिसेबल्ड है यदि मैं विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड की बात करूं तो, दूसरी बहू नॉन डिसेबल्ड है, लेकिन उस परिवार में क्या है कि शुभ और अशुभ काम में जो विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड बहू है उसको टच भी नहीं करने दिया जाता। आज भी उसको जब इस तरह का ओकेजन होता है तो कोशिश ये रहती है कि वो सामने भी ना आए। क्या ये डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं है? क्या ये हमारे पास 21st सेंचुरी का एक चैलेंज नहीं है? क्या ये चैलेंज शताब्दियों से नहीं था? भले ही आज हम लोगों की एजुकेशन हो गई, एम्प्लॉयमेंट आ गई, 4% रिजर्वेशन आ गई, उसके बावजूद भी जो हमारे समाज का माइंड सेट है वो वाले पल कितने पेनफुल होते हैं उसका आप अंदाजा लगाएं। माने दोनों डिसेबल्ड हैं, पति पत्नी, लेकिन पत्नी को सामने नहीं आने दिया जाएगा क्योंकि वो डिसेबल्ड है, ताकि यदि कोई शुभ काम हो रहा है तो उसमें उसकी परछाई ना पड़े, और यदि कोई अशुभ काम हो रहा है, किसी की डेथ हुई है, तो उसको जो सोच है वो ये कि अगले जन्म में उसको ये सारी डिसेबिलिटी ना फेस करनी पड़े। आज मैं एक और चीज देख रही हूँ, और मैंने ये मेरा अनुभव एक या दो के साथ नहीं हुआ, ये मेरा अनुभव बहुत लोगों के साथ हुआ, जो कि सुनकर बड़ा पेन हुआ। परिवार में डिसेबल्ड है लड़का या लड़की, उनकी हेल्थ जो है वो परिवार के लिए बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा नहीं होता, लेकिन यदि दोनों डिसेबल्ड हैं परिवार में, तो मैंने देखा है कि उन परिवारों में लड़कों का या मेल्स का ट्रीटमेंट फिर भी हो जाता है, फीमेल्स का ट्रीटमेंट नहीं है। मेरे पास उदाहरण है, मैं इस आधार पर कह रही हूँ। और वो ट्रीटमेंट ना मिल पाने की वजह से डेथ तक हुई है, क्योंकि प्रॉपर ट्रीटमेंट नहीं मिला। और कहीं कहीं तो ऐसा भी देखा गया है कि वो लेडीज जो हैं वो कमाने वाली हैं, उसके बावजूद भी उनको ट्रीटमेंट नहीं मिला, और उसके बावजूद भी उनको उनकी डेथ हुई है। इस तरह के भी बहुत सारे उदाहरण हैं मेरे पास। तो ये जो हेल्थ वाला इशू है, ये इशू बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण इशू है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है। अब मेरे बहुत सारे साथी लोग, मेरे बहुत सारे दोस्त लोग मुझे अक्सर ये कहते हैं कि तुम विमेन विद डिसेबिलिटी की बात हमेशा करती हो, कास्ट के आधार पर भी तो महिलाओं के साथ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन है, गरीबी के आधार पर भी तो महिलाओं के साथ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन है। मैं कहती हूँ हाँ है, मैं इस चीज से बिल्कुल कतई इनकार नहीं करती, लेकिन दो औरतें सामने खड़ी हैं, एक लोअर कास्ट की है और गरीब है, दूसरी अपर कास्ट की है, डिसेबल्ड है, कमा रही है। यदि हमारे डिसेबल्ड मेल दोस्तों के पास, उनके परिवारजनों के पास ये चॉइस होगी कि वो दोनों में से किसके साथ शादी करना पसंद करेंगे, तो प्रेफरेंस एक्सेप्शंस को छोड़कर प्रेफरेंस क्या होगा, ये मुझे आप सबको बताने की जरूरत नहीं है। मैंने ऐसे उदाहरण भी देखे हैं जहां पर परिवार में साइटेड दो या तीन बहुएं लगा लो, चलो तीन का उदाहरण देती हूँ। दो नॉन डिसेबल्ड हैं, एक डिसेबल्ड है, दो बहुएं कमाती नहीं हैं लेकिन वो देख सकती हैं, दोनों की दोनों बहुएं सुंदर नहीं हैं लेकिन वो देख सकती हैं, दोनों की दोनों बहुएं गरीब परिवारों से हैं लेकिन वो देख सकती हैं। हमारे समाज में आज भी बावजूद 50 कानूनों के दहेज लिया और दिया जाता है। दो बहुएं दहेज नहीं लाती हैं लेकिन वो देख सकती हैं, उनका स्टेटस परिवार में, और जो बहू पढ़ी लिखी है, सुंदर है, कमाती है, उसका एक से है, दहेज लाती है, उसको समाज में इन दोनों बहुओं के बराबर स्टेटस मिलता है?
No, ma'am. And ma'am, you are talking about only one disability. Why not multiple disability?
अभी
I
मैं आ
have
रही हूँ, आ रही हूँ,
multiple
आ रही हूँ, उस पर आ रही
disability.
हूँ, आ रही हूँ, उस पर आ रही हूँ मैं।
Angela ma'am, just wait.
तो 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 जो सवाल है वो ये है कि विमेन विद मैं रोजमर्रा की मेरे को वो बड़ी बड़ी बातें नहीं आती करनी। मैं रोजमर्रा के उदाहरणों से उससे सीखती हूँ और वही बोलती हूँ। क्या स्थिति है? हम लोग टेक्नोलॉजी की बात करते हैं, मैं अब थोड़ा सा हट के बोलती हूँ। हम टेक्नोलॉजी की बात करते हैं। टेक्नोलॉजी में हमारी विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड और दूसरी डिसेबिलिटीज में नो डाउट ड्रास्टिक चेंज लाई है टेक्नोलॉजी, ड्रास्टिक चेंज। हमारे सॉफ्टवेयर्स की वजह से, कुछ कंपनीज के सेंसिटाइज होने की वजह से, कुछ एनजीओस के इनिशिएटिव लेने की वजह से, तमाम कारणों से टेक्नोलॉजी के कारण हम लोगों की जिंदगियों में ड्रास्टिक चेंज आया है। यदि मैं यहाँ पर लड़कियों की बात करती हूँ, जो जानकारी मुझे है उनमें हिंदुस्तान में जितने भी लड़कियों के स्कूल्स हैं, यदि मैं विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड की बात करूं, उन स्कूल्स में से बहुत कम स्कूल्स ऐसे हैं जहां पर कि लड़कियों को, स्पेशल स्कूल्स की मैं बात कर रही हूँ, जहां पर कि लड़कियों को कंप्यूटर लिटरेट किया जाता है, जहां पर लड़कियों के पास अपने लैपटॉप्स हैं, अपने सिस्टम्स हैं, जबकि उन स्कूल्स में डोनेशन होलसेल में आता है। लेकिन वो डोनेशन हमारी स्कूल्स जो है लेते हैं खाने पीने और दूसरे तीसरे सामान के लिए। लैपटॉप्स लड़कियों को बांटने हैं, वो डोनेशंस नहीं लिए जा रहे हैं। तो आज जबकि ऑनलाइन एडमिशंस हो रहे हैं, अगर मैं दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी की बात करती हूँ क्योंकि यहाँ पर पढ़ाती हूँ, ऑनलाइन एडमिशंस हो रहे हैं, फॉर्म्स ऑनलाइन निकलते हैं, क्या हमारी लड़कियां वो फॉर्म फिल करने की स्थिति में है? क्या हमारी लड़कियां दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी की वेबसाइट्स को डेली चेक करने की स्थिति में है? क्या हमारी लड़कियां 12th पास करने के बाद, मैं उसके ऊपर के लेवल की बात नहीं कर रही हूँ, 12th पास करने के बाद क्या हमारी लड़कियां ऑनलाइन पेमेंट करने की स्थिति में है? क्यों? क्योंकि सिखाया नहीं गया, सिखाया नहीं गया। ये अपने आप में एक और बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज है 21st सेंचुरी का। अब आइए ब्रेल पर। हमारे जितने भी स्पेशल स्कूल्स हैं, इन स्कूल्स में जो टीचर्स रिटायर कर रहे हैं, उनमें से ज्यादातर स्कूल्स में वो पोस्ट भरी नहीं जा रही हैं, और यदि भरी जा रही हैं तो वहां पर विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड लेडी टीचर की अपॉइंटमेंट बहुत कम हो रही है, उस अनुपात में नहीं हो रही है जिस अनुपात में होनी चाहिए। तो हमारी लड़कियों को ब्रेल नहीं सिखाया जा रहा है स्कूल्स में, और उसका परिणाम ये हो रहा है कि उनके स्पेलिंग्स, क्योंकि वो सुन रहे हैं रिकॉर्डिंग के माध्यम से, सुनकर अपने लेसन्स तैयार कर रहे हैं, अपने क्वेश्चंस तैयार कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उनके स्पेलिंग्स, मैं अंग्रेजी में नहीं, मैं हिंदी में भी बोलूंगी, मैं संस्कृत भाषा में भी बोलूंगी, उसमें वीक हो रहे हैं। ब्रेल की बुक्स बहुत हैवी है, साइज में बड़ी है, उतना रखना संभव नहीं है। लेकिन जो हमारे डिवाइसेस आ रहे हैं जिसमें कि ब्रेल में आप नोट्स ले सकते हैं, नोट टेकर्स हैं जो कि एक ब्रेलर से भी कम की जगह घेरते हैं, उनकी कॉस्ट 25, 30, 35 हजार से कम नहीं है। कितने लोग हम में से, स्टूडेंट्स को सब्सिडाइज रेट पर दिया जाता है, तो भी हम में से कितने लोग उस सब्सिडाइज रेट की का जो रेट है उसको मीट करने की स्थिति में है? अब मैं आपको तो जो हमारा एक तरफ हम टेक्नोलॉजी में पिछड़े हुए हैं, विमेन की बात कर रही हूँ, दूसरी तरफ से हम ब्रेल में पिछड़ रहे हैं या पिछड़े हुए हैं, जबकि ब्रेल में बुक होलसेल में है। जितनी भी लीडिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, सभी लीडिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस की ब्रेल प्रेसेस हैं, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की ब्रेल प्रेसेस हैं जहां पर बुक्स हैं। अब हमारे सामने एक और चैलेंज आ रहा है। अगर मैं दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी की बात करती हूँ, 5 साल के बाद सिलेबस चेंज हो जाता है। उस चेंज्ड सिलेबस के हिसाब से हमारे स्टूडेंट्स को मटेरियल उस हिसाब से नहीं मिल पाता। लेकिन अगर मैं गर्ल्स की बात करती हूँ तो मैं बहुत सारे कॉलेजेस में ये देखती हूँ, हालांकि कुछ कॉलेजेस में लाइब्रेरीज बनी हुई हैं जहां पर की रिकॉर्डिंग एक बैच करता है तो अगले बैचेस तक जाती है, लेकिन उसके बावजूद भी बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स ऐसी हैं जिनको, लड़कियों को हर साल रिकॉर्डिंग के लिए इधर उधर खूब भटकना पड़ता है, खूब परेशान होना पड़ता है। ऐसा नहीं है कि लड़कों को नहीं होना पड़ता, ऐसा नहीं है, मैं ये बिल्कुल नहीं कह रही हूँ। मैं गर्ल्स की बात इसलिए कर रही हूँ क्योंकि गर्ल्स की अपनी दूसरी तरह की हॉस्टल्स वगैरह की तमाम तरीके की रिस्ट्रिक्शंस हैं। तो वो अपने आप में एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज है। अब आजकल ओबी का जमाना है, एड ऑन कोर्सेज हैं, तमाम चीजें आ रही हैं, लेकिन हमारे स्टूडेंट्स जो हैं उनके सामने एक और, भाई राइटर को आपने दे दिया, आप ओपन बुक एग्जामिनेशन है, वो बुक्स में से देख कर लिख रहे हैं, साइटेड भी लिख रहे हैं, यहाँ भी आपका राइटर लिख रहा है, लेकिन वो राइटर क्या लिख रहा है ये तो हमारे स्टूडेंट्स को नहीं पता, और उसका नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट किस पर जा रहा है? हमारे स्टूडेंट्स के रिजल्ट्स पर। हमारे दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी के, दूसरी यूनिवर्सिटीज का मुझे आइडिया नहीं है, तमाम कॉलेजेस में एनेबलिंग यूनिट्स हैं, तमाम कॉलेजेस में है, लेकिन ये एक और बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज है कि हमने कागजों में एनेबलिंग यूनिट बना दिया क्योंकि यूजीसी का दबाव था हमारे ऊपर, हमने बना दिया, लेकिन वो जो एनेबलिंग यूनिट्स हैं वो एक्सेसिबिलिटी के नाम पर जीरो है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के नाम पर जीरो है, फैसिलिटीज के नाम पर जीरो है, ना टीचर्स के पास सुविधाएं हैं ना स्टूडेंट्स के पास सुविधाएं हैं, कहने को एनेबलिंग यूनिट्स हैं। कहने को हम ये कहते हैं, मैंने जो थोड़ी देर पहले कहा था, अशिक्षित समाज की बात छोड़िए, शिक्षित समाज की बात लीजिए। शिक्षित समाज में हमारे यहाँ पर स्टाफ रूम्स में आ जाइए, टीचर्स के साथ आ जाइए, स्टाफ रूम में यदि 100 टीचर बैठा है तो क्या विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड टीचर मेले में अकेला होता है या नहीं? हम में से कितने हमारे स्टूडेंट्स हैं जिनके दोस्त, नॉन डिसेबल्ड दोस्त, ये कहते हैं आजा भाई हम तेरा कैंटीन में इंतजार कर रहे हैं, चलो आज कमला नगर चलते हैं, चलो आज फलां मूवी देखने चलते हैं। हमें रीडर्स मिलते हैं, हमें सपोर्टर्स मिलते हैं, हमें एनएसएस के वॉलंटियर्स मिलते हैं, हम में से कितने लोगों को दोस्त मिलते हैं। तो ये जो सारी चीजें हैं, देखो यहाँ पर लड़ाई हमारे सामने चैलेंज क्या है, हमारी अपनी डिसेबिलिटी के भीतर की लड़ाई और नॉन डिसेबल्ड के बीच का दूसरा पहलू। और डिसेबिलिटी में भी क्या है, मुझे विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड का मालूम है, मुझे हेयरिंग इम्पेयर्ड का मालूम नहीं है, मुझे लोकोमोटर का मालूम नहीं है। और जिसमें मल्टीपल डिसेबिलिटी है, जो अभी बात उठी, आप सोचें वहां पर उनकी किस तरह के चैलेंजेस हैं, वो बीइंग अ डिसेबल्ड मुझे पता ही नहीं है। यदि मैं अपने हियरिंग इम्पेयर्ड साथियों की बात करूं, मैं क्लास ले रही हूं या मेरे कोई साइटेड नॉन डिसेबल्ड कलीग क्लास ले रही है, हम तो इक्वालिटी में विश्वास करते हैं, हमने 4% रिजर्वेशन के तहत स्टूडेंट को एडमिशन दे दिया, लेकिन क्लास में जो टीचर बोल रही है वो हियरिंग इम्पेयर्ड स्टूडेंट तक कितना कम्युनिकेट हो रहा है, क्या वो ये टीचर जानती है? जो क्लास के दूसरे नॉन डिसेबल्ड स्टूडेंट्स हैं, क्या वो जानते हैं? तो ये आप कल्पना कीजिए कि एक लड़की जिसको दिखता नहीं है, मैं लड़की इसलिए बोल रही हूँ क्योंकि घरों में लड़कियों से ही, परिवार से में लड़कियों से ही ज्यादा अपेक्षाएं होती हैं। एक लड़की जिसको दिखाई नहीं देता, वो जो चल नहीं सकती है, जो स्पष्ट, जो बोलने की स्थिति में भी नहीं है, साफ समझ में नहीं आता, उस लड़की की स्थिति क्या है परिवार के अंदर। ये तो मैंने सिंगल डिसेबिलिटी का के उदाहरण दिए थे, जिसमें मल्टीपल डिसेबिलिटी है, तो आप सोचें वहां वो किस समस्या से जूझ रही है। क्या हमारे कोई अरमान नहीं है? क्या हमें कभी ऐसा नहीं लगता कि मेरा अपना घर हो, मेरा अपना परिवार हो, मैं अपने घर को अपने हिसाब से सजाऊं, मेरे अपने बच्चे हों? लेकिन क्या हमारी ये जो भावनाएं हैं, उन भावनाओं को हम एक्सप्रेस कर पाते हैं? अब यहाँ पर एक और सवाल खड़ा हुआ है कि हम नॉन डिसेबल्ड समाज को ही इसके लिए क्यों उत्तरदायी ठहराएं? बेसिकली ये हमारा सिस्टम है। इस सिस्टम पर आने से पहले मेरे दिमाग में एक और पॉइंट आया है, जिस पर मैं 1 मिनट के लिए बात कर लेती हूँ, फिर मैं उस पॉइंट पे आऊंगी। वो ये एम्प्लॉयमेंट की हम बात कर रहे हैं। देखिए, आज का जमाना जो है, और ये पहले से भी रहा है, मार्केटिंग का युग है। मैं अपने प्रोडक्ट को कितना बेस्ट तरीके से प्रोजेक्ट कर सकती हूँ, वो उस पर डिपेंड करता है, मेरी कैपेबिलिटी पर। और वो जो है, वो जो, तो तभी मेरा प्रोडक्ट सेल होगा, तभी मेरा प्रोडक्ट सेल होगा। मैं एक एम्प्लॉयर हूं और मेरे पास अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं कि मैं नॉन डिसेबल्ड को भी रख सकती हूँ, डिसेबल्ड को भी रख सकती हूँ। तो बीइंग एन एम्प्लॉयर, मैं क्या देख रही हूँ कि मेरी कंपनी का फ्यूचर आगे कौन लेकर जा रहा है। उदाहरण के लिए, यदि मेरी कोई ऐसी फैक्ट्री है जिसमें मैं जो प्रोडक्ट बना रही हूँ, उस प्रोडक्ट को बनाने में मशीनों का बहुत ज्यादा शोर है, तो उस स्थिति में मैं हियरिंग इम्पेयर्ड को अपने यहाँ पर एम्प्लॉयमेंट दूंगी, क्योंकि वो मेरी कंपनी को आगे लेकर जाएंगे, नॉन डिसेबल्ड नहीं लेकर जाएगा। तो जब हम एम्प्लॉयमेंट के लिए एडवोकेसी करने जाते हैं, क्योंकि देखिए गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर में जॉब्स बहुत कम है, जो हैं, जो रिटायर हो रहे हैं, वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पर नौकरियां निकल रही हैं, और कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पर जो नौकरियां निकल रही हैं उसमें हमारे डिसेबल्ड साथियों की स्थिति बहुत खराब है। अब अगर मैं प्राइवेट सेक्टर की बात करती हूँ तो प्राइवेट सेक्टर में जो हम लोग खुद हैं, मैं अपने आप को इस समय एक स्टूडेंट के रूप में रख रही हूँ, एक ट्रेनीज के रूप में रख रही हूँ। जो हम ट्रेनीज हैं, क्या हम जो एनजीओ से ट्रेनिंग ले रहे हैं, वो ट्रेनिंग लेने के बाद मैं अपने पोटेंशियल को किसी कॉरपोरेट वर्ल्ड में इस तरह से प्रोजेक्ट कर सकती हूँ कि उसे लगे कि मुझे इसको लेना चाहिए अपने यहाँ पर। मैं उसके ऊपर एक बर्डन बन जाऊंगी तो कोई भी मार्केटिंग का बंदा मुझे नहीं लेगा, कोई भी प्रोडक्शन का बंदा मुझे नहीं लेगा। तो उसके लिए जरूरत किस चीज की है? जरूरत है मैं अपनी स्किल्स को बढ़ाऊं, जरूरत है मैं अपने आप को स्मार्ट बनाऊं। आई एम सॉरी, मैं आज भी बहुत सारी विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड लड़कियों को देखती हूँ और मैं कई बार ये सोचती भी हूँ कि मुझे इस तरह का प्रोग्राम कंडक्ट करना चाहिए कि जब हम खाना खा रहे हैं तो जो बेसिक एक टेबल मैनर्स होती हैं, हम हॉस्टल में हैं, हमें किस तरह से अपने कपड़े आयरन करके पहनने चाहिए, हमें किस तरह से हॉस्टल के अंदर ही साफ सुथरा बन के रहना चाहिए, वो चीजें क्या हम लोग अपने स्टूडेंट्स को सिखा रहे हैं? यदि हम नहीं सिखा रहे हैं तो गलती हमारी है यहाँ पर। तो कल को वो हमारा स्टूडेंट अपने आप को किस तरह से कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड में प्रोजेक्ट करेगा, किस तरह से उसको इंटरव्यू को फेस करना है, वो वाली चीजें क्या हम उसको सिखा रहे हैं? और क्या हमारे स्टूडेंट में इंटरेस्ट है? मैं आपको एक और उदाहरण देती हूँ। हम लोग अपने
मंजुला मैम, सॉरी फॉर द डिस्टर्ब।
कितनी देर में बंद करना है?
मैम आपकी इच्छा, बट ट्राई टू कंप्लीट विद इन 2-3 मिनट।
2-3 मिनट्स? मुझे सिर्फ 5 मिनट दे दो।
ओके, नो प्रॉब्लम, प्लीज मैम।
ठीक है, फिर मुझे
Okay.
बता देना 5 मिनट पर, क्योंकि टीचर्स को पता ही नहीं चलता टाइम का।
नो प्रॉब्लम मैम, आई नो। यस मैम, प्लीज।
तो मैं ये कह रही थी कि क्या हम अपने स्टूडेंट्स को ये सब सिखा रहे हैं और क्या हमारे स्टूडेंट्स खुद ये सीखना चाह रहे हैं? दोनों चीजें, वाइस वर्सा। अब मैं थोड़ी देर, सिर्फ के क्या 5 मिनट है, तो मैं दूसरे पहलू पर आती हूँ कि हम इसके लिए क्या नॉन डिसेबल्ड को उत्तरदायी ठहराएं? नहीं, नहीं। हमारे सामने अब चैलेंज क्या है? देखिए, जो कुछ हो चुका वो हो चुका, वो वापस नहीं आएगा। जो माइंडसेट बन गया वो बन गया, वो उसको चेंज करना बहुत कठिन है, असंभव नहीं है, कठिन है। लेकिन अब हम क्या करें? हम लोगों को छोटे बच्चों को पकड़ना होगा, नर्सरी प्राइमरी लेवल के स्कूल्स में, जो कि जहां पर की मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स नॉन डिसेबल्ड है। उन स्टूडेंट वहां पर जाके उनको ये डिसेबिलिटी के प्रति उनको सेंसिटाइज करना होगा, अलग अलग पहलुओं को लेकर। अपने घर के आसपास के लोगों को सेंसिटाइज करना होगा। सबसे पहले तो जो सबसे कठिन काम है, अपने परिवार को सेंसिटाइज करना। बाहर वालों को करना पता नहीं कितना मुश्किल है और कितना सरल है, लेकिन परिवार को सेंसिटाइज करना सबसे ज्यादा मुश्किल है। उसको सेंसिटाइज करना होगा हमें, ये हम सबकी जिम्मेवारी बनती है। जहां पर हम नौकरियां करते हैं, जहां पर हम पढ़ रहे हैं, हमें अपने आसपास के एनवायरनमेंट को सेंसिटाइज करना होगा। ये जिम्मेवारी हम लोगों की है। छोड़ दीजिए जो कुछ किसने क्या किया क्या नहीं किया, इतने सारे एक्ट आ गए, वो सारी चीजें आ गई, वो सब बोलने के लिए बहुत लोग हैं। लेकिन इस समय हमारे कंधों पर जिम्मेवारी सबसे ज्यादा है, सबसे ज्यादा है। क्योंकि यहाँ पर मैं जिस ग्रुप के साथ बात कर रही हूँ, सब लोग पढ़े लिखे हैं। यदि यदि मैं ये डिसाइड कर लूं, यहाँ पर आज जितने भी लोग हैं, कि मैं अगले 1 साल के अंदर सिर्फ 5 लोगों को प्राइमरी स्कूल से लेकर अपर लेवल तक, जहां तक मैं कर सकती हूँ, सिर्फ 5 लोगों को मैं सेंसिटाइज करूंगी। और यदि यहाँ पर 20 लोग हैं तो एक साल में हम 100 लोगों को कर सकते हैं। ये ड्रॉप इन द ओशन है, लेकिन अगर हम ये नहीं करते तो 100 भी नहीं होते ना एक साल में। तो मुझे लगता है कि इश्यूज बहुत सारे हैं, बोलने को बहुत कुछ है, लेकिन समय का भी अभाव है और मुझे लगता है मैंने टाइम भी थोड़ा ज्यादा लिया है। पर मैं ऑर्गेनाइजर्स का एक बार फिर थैंक्स करती हूँ कि आपने मुझे अपॉर्चुनिटी दी अपनी बात रखने की। मैंने कुछ नया तो शायद नहीं बोला, लेकिन आपके अंदर की सोया हुआ जो वो था उसको जगाने की कोशिश की है। तो मैं उम्मीद करती हूँ कि हम लोग इस कॉन्फ्रेंस के लास्ट में ये तय करेंगे कि 5 लोगों को हम एक साल में सेंसिटाइज करेंगे और ये काम रुकेगा नहीं, ये सिलसिला चलता रहेगा। तो हो सकता है कि 2025 तक हम कुछ लोगों को सेंसिटाइज कर सके। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
थैंक यू सो मच
थैंक
मैम।
यू सो मच मैम, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। मैं बहुत श्योर हूँ कि आपके उदाहरणों से सबको पता चल गया होगा कि ये नजर जरूरी नहीं होती, इंसान की अच्छी नजरिया जरूरी होता है। थैंक्स अ लॉट मैम।
हेलो हेलो
Amulya, I think somebody wants to speak. Please check.
Yes sir, I'm trying to figure out.
आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही। हेलो प्लीज, योर वॉइस इज नॉट कमिंग।
Hello, whoever was trying to speak, आप प्लीज एक बार अपना माइक अनम्यूट करके बोल लें।
Yeah, you're able to hear me now?
Yeah, now we are.
मैं national stage for time से गोवा स्टेट ब्रांच मिसेस ने बात रही हूँ। यहाँ पे मैडम की ये सुना, बहुत तरफ उन्होंने बताया कि किस तरफ समाज अभी भी तो बुरी ब्लाइंड लोगों के साथ किस प्रकार का व्यवहार करते हैं। मगर मैडम मैंने अभी देखा है, वहां से थोड़ा कुछ भी सीखा है, उससे मुझे ऐसे लगा है कि ये सब है जो पेरेंट्स या जो सम्मान नहीं है, या जैसे आपने कहा को सेंसिटाइज करना है, लोगों में अवेयरनेस लाना है, वो बात बहुत जरूरी है। अगर ये सब कहाँ से स्टार्ट होती है तो ये मेन पेरेंट्स का है। जब बच्चे पैदा होते हैं तभी से हम जान लेना है कि बच्चा पैदा हुआ है, वो ब्लाइंड है या डिसेबल्ड है। पेरेंट्स टेक द इनिशिएटिव्स व्हेन दे नो that the child is blind or any further disabled. There are any schools or any other institution which helps जो rehabilitation का होने के लिए जरूरी है। वहां जाके उन्हें देखे किस प्रकार से या के साथ बैठ के वहां के बात करे और उन्हें सेंसिस करने की कोशिश करे, या वहाँ के जो लोग जो होते हैं, पे टीचर्स तो जो भी इंस्टीट्यूशन के उनके साथ जाके बात करें कि उनके प्रॉब्लम्स क्या है। जैसे देखा स्टार्टिंग में ये बच्चों स्कूल में भी लेते थे, मगर अभी हम देखते हैं कि हम लोग जाते हैं तो बहुत क्वेरी है उनके पास कि ऐसे ले, पहले रेडी नहीं हुए हैं, बाद में वो रेडी रहते हैं। क्योंकि हम उनको बोलते हैं कि हमारे बच्चों को आप स्कूल में रखो, स्पेशली इन द इंक्लूसिव आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट, वहां को लेते नहीं थे। फिर अभी जब हम जो है के जो हम जब गोवा बात कर रही हूँ और इवन बॉम्बे में मैंने देखा कि वहाँ पे पेरेंट्स को साथ कि कोई टीचर्स जाता के, नहीं तो ये पेरेंट्स जाके अगर इंस्टीट्यूशन में अगर बात करे तो बच्चों को कैसे सिखाना है, क्या करना है, तो वहां को डेफिनेटली उनको बोलते हैं इस प्रकार से आप करो। आफ्टर सर्टेन एज जहाँ पे वो एक्सेप्टेबल होता है कि जहाँ पे उनको सब स्पेशल टॉयलेट when you bring the child right from the बात है कि जब तक पेरेंट्स एक्सेप्ट नहीं थे तक स्टूडेंट भी एक्सेप्ट नहीं करते हैं कि या ब्लाइंड चाइल्ड एक्सेप्ट नहीं करता है, क्योंकि फैमिली मेंबर्स ही एक्सेप्ट करते हैं तो बच्चे कहीं सीखने के लिए आगे बढ़ेंगे। दे नीड अ मोटिवेशन, दे नीड अ फ्रॉम द फैमिली, दे नीड द सेक्रेटरी फ्रॉम द फैमिली। वो हम जरूर करेंगे। वो पॉजिटिव करने के लिए me. So that thing when it comes to the students, automatic, I find my students at NAP, they are they're doing quite well. Now we have students, those who are into school also, colleges also, but they have kept their name over there because now they don't know this thing. As you said, our institution is well equipped, though we are running on charity, but still our institution still trying to get the donations from other corporate others or from the well-wishers and donors, and that money was there we utilize for the facilities of the blind people like NVDA. Then you have embossers and so many other things, what are magnifying glasses and so many other things which will help the blind to facilitate their education. So यहाँ पे अगर हमें बच्चों की अभी most of the students will learn computers, they are trying to, because in colleges it is very difficult. So what here we do is we teach them how to type, and now we are doing it on a, especially we have a software like NVA, we have JAWS, you have. So the teacher or the people, those who are teaching in this field, if they are well equipped with all these facilities which are there, and that is aimed to the student, they do quite well. I've seen my students taking 3 buses and they are going to the college. I have seen the people coming forward and helping. What happens is,
can I interrupt?
Yeah.
मैं सिर्फ इतना कहूंगी, मैं ये नहीं कह रही हूँ कि चेंज नहीं आया, मैं ये नहीं कह रही, मैं एक मिनट लेट मी कंप्लीट। मैं ये कह रही हूँ कि चेंज आया है, लेकिन जो ये चेंज है ये बहुत कम लोगों के साथ है। हमें मेजॉरिटी की यदि हम बात करें, हम उस दिशा में काम करने की जरूरत है। मैं ये नहीं कह रही हूँ कि चेंज नहीं आया, चेंज आया है। थैंक यू
Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay. Any other question? Thank you so much, ma'am, for the very beautiful question. Okay. Any other people? Hello? Nobody. Amulya, can we proceed?
Okay, so we have Shalini ma'am with us. Shalini is passionate about furthering the rights of persons with disabilities and works closely with individuals and organizations on disability rights. Shalini provided legal aid for under trials in India in India's largest central prison at Tihar in Delhi. She had obtained positive orders for several acid attack survivors, including enhanced compensations, full reimbursement of medical expenses, and employment with the state government. She also prosecuted on behalf of survivors of sexual violence in trial courts. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much for giving such an elaborate description about my work. So glad to be part of this session that Bhumika Trust has planned out for today, and all of us must be knowing about the fact that आज International Disability Day है. तो आज this is a day for celebration for all disabled people across the world, and especially India में, because 2016 में हमारी एक जंग के बाद कहा जाए कि एक लॉ आई जो डिसेबल फ्रेंडली थी, जो कि UNCRPD की गाइडलाइंस के अंडर में थी. तो हाँ, उसके बाद से हम सारे डिसेबल पीपल आज आर सेलिब्रेटिंग द सक्सेस. ऑल्दो अभी मैम ने भी बोला, मंजुला मैम ने भी, और हम भी सब एज अ लॉयर भी जानते हैं कि इम्प्लीमेंटेशन इज अ प्रॉब्लम, और बेहतर है जो कि 1995 की लॉ थी उसके कंपैरिजन में.